Well, how about that? Have we said anything relatively interesting for me to be able to edit in the front? You know how I do that
Did
thing?
we say anything interesting throughout the whole hour?
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
There we go. I think we found it. All right, rugby. There it is.
Oh, we're gonna stop stealing that. Rian, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Give him a sweet plug right off the bat. Rian Lou, go subscribe, everybody.
Yeah.
He's the man.
He is the man.
He's the funniest.
He's getting some traction.
He is. He's the funniest rugby YouTuber out there. I'm sorry to say he's funnier than you.
Oh, because my whiteboard is known for the for the gags,
for the big laughs.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh. Yeah, I'm happy to start literally every podcast we do with a Rian Lou. He'll be loving this. We'll get a tweet out of it. I'll tell you that much. Good on you, Rian.
This is a podcast.
It is a podcast, and you can listen to
2 Cents Gets Distracted is the name of the podcast, also known as 2CGD.
2CGD, we're trying, hashtag 2CGD. We're seeing that around the places, which is also the name of, for the love of Christ. There it is. Sorry, I thought we lost it. This little bad boy. This is what, the William Webb Ellis Cup is on the line at the end of the year. Six Nations trophies, Grand Slams, all sorts of things, the Rugby Championship. But the thing that most professional athletes, or especially rugby players, this is what they're after. The
old 2CGD.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. I'm going to have to edit in my damn thing again. I'm just thinking more editing. There we go. Beautiful. Yeah, that's what it's all about, really. That's the real silverware that everybody's after this particular year.
This is a rugby podcast.
Yes, and you can listen to this rugby podcast
on Spotify,
iHeartRadio,
Google Podcasts,
and Stitcher, and other places.
Yeah, other places.
I feel like we're very hosty today. We're really hosting.
What's wrong? That's because we're tired. We both got up.
Yeah, she's a long day.
At 4 o'clock in the morning.
So, what time is
it? Can I let you in on a little secret?
Is this admission time? Because I've got some things to admit to.
This is the way I kind of sneak an extra 15 minutes sleep in during the Six Nations. Like if the game's starting at 4, I set my alarm for 4:15.
Oh right, okay, that's pretty early on. Oh really?
Yes, after kickoff.
Oh, that is.
So I set my alarm for 4:15.
I was thinking 3:15 for some reason.
No, I don't get up extra early. I get an extra 15 minutes sleep in.
Right.
Then I boot the game up and I deliberately make sure I track back. I don't get spoiled. I track back 15 minutes.
Yeah, right.
So I'm starting for kickoff, and then half time is about 15 minutes.
Right.
So I can pretty much time it. So and then you can also skip through some of the. You can fast forward the setting for scrums and stuff.
There's three resets.
Yeah, resets and things like that. So that's the way I squeeze an extra 15 minutes sleep.
Tip.
A lot of people say, "Oh, good on you, mate, for getting up at stupid o'clock to watch these games." Well,
dude,
I'm not quite 100% committed. I do have that little trick.
I think that is commitment. I think 4:15 is stupid o'clock still.
Right.
But I was up.
It's 15 minutes better than 4
I was
o'clock.
at slightly more stupid o'clock, so I set my alarm for 3:45 because I'm a slow riser.
Okay.
Exactly. That's how my sex life goes too. But so it takes me a while. But I slapped a snooze button for a couple of times. I was about to say that's how my sex life goes too. But, so I slept, and then I just have to will myself out of bed, and sometimes it works.
Right. Other times not so
much.
And it
does, and other times it doesn't work. And this is what I have to admit. So I was up this morning with you.
Yes.
3:35.
You weren't with me.
We weren't in the same bed. Get up! Why are you setting your alarm for 4:15? But on Saturday night, we were together.
Again.
We were live streaming the Blues game. Which
we were.
There was all of 20 people in the world interested in.
That's right.
And then you might have noticed I offered you some wine before you left. You had a glass.
I did.
And I drank a bottle as you're drinking a glass.
Yeah, I was nursing it because I knew I had to drive home.
Yeah. And then after you left, I drank some whiskey, and I was on. We can talk about the Kiwi lads and all that. So we were on the live stream, and we got a bit hectic.
Yeah.
We hosted for a while by accident. It was a bit of chaos, and then I was I set my alarm, and then I just did not hear it. Just straight through. So
the Italy-Ireland game, which was in terms of the kickoff time for us here in New Zealand, that was the worst of the bunch. It was 3-something.
It's the brutal one, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was 3:15. So
yeah,
I was up at 3:30.
It gets worse. It gets worse. So in the morning, I woke up and I was like, oh, do it. Because I was like, oh, now I've got 2 games of rugby to watch.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it becomes a chore. You're like,
woe is me.
yeah, I'm going to watch bloody rugby and you kid and all that sort of stuff. So I watched the England-Wales game, which I'm sure we're going to get into.
You watched that first?
Yeah, I watched it.
Did they spoil the result of the previous one?
I think there was just a murmur about it, and then I think I got on Twitter and I was like, oh, they won. And as soon as you know,
it sucks.
all motivation to watch the game
just goes out the window.
Leaves you. So,
especially with how, I mean, should we start with that game?
Sure.
Like, the Italians played bloody well.
I can't tell you much about it because I didn't watch it.
You actually didn't watch it? Oh my
I watched the highlights. Today, before you came, I was like, I'm going to watch it. I watched the whole damn thing. And I host a rugby podcast. I didn't watch one of the biggest games of the weekend.
Goodness.
Terrible person. Give me shit in the comments, people. But I was gonna watch it, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it on the Sky Sports Now app. There wasn't a full replay. There was an 11-minute highlight package. Okay. So I watched that, and boy, did it look exciting!
It was great. Yeah.
Well, it looked interesting because it looked like it was going to be pretty much play by the numbers that Ireland were going to get on top.
Ireland started with a couple of tries.
James Lowe is forgetting how to put the ball down.
He bombs one. Yeah.
I could have fibbed my way through this, I reckon.
Honesty's always the best policy.
Yeah. So tell me, like, in terms of the comeback, was it similar? Kind of had a similar sort of vibe, just from what I can perceive from the highlights, to that the France-Italy game.
Yeah, very similar.
Ireland went up. You know, you thought, oh, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the Italians just found a way to hang in it.
Yeah, they did.
And they're only 7 points down at half time. And then it was all on for Donkey Kong, but maybe just a little bit of class.
Yeah, at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, Ireland obviously made a few changes for that one. There was no Sexton.
Yeah.
Ringrose had to pull out kind of last minutes.
Bundy Aki seemed to be involved in everything.
Yeah, they were still... I don't think... Because I think McCloskey and Aki usually play 12, so they were kind of running with 2 12s out there, so I don't think they were quite as on-song as a pairing as they would have been. Ringrose has been magic.
He dropped one over a line.
Yeah, that's right. He kind of lost it when he was sliding along.
Yeah, kind of like... rolled over his arm.
Yeah, so there was a few disruptions. I mean, Tyke Byrne was also... He's out for a wee while, so there were disruptions in the build-up for Ireland. But, I mean, still, on paper, I mean, the bookies had them by 20-odd points.
I know... I don't think you can say that's a bad Ireland performance. I think the Scottish team is just pretty damn legit. So you've got to give some credit to almost like not quite the A side, like the A.5 side, basically, getting it done against a pumped up
Italian team.
Italy team in Rome. Was it in Rome? So, you know, that's a heck of an effort. So
it was a crazy game in terms of the atmosphere. I don't know if I would have showed it in the highlights, but because there was a huge travelling group of Irish fans, they always travel really well. But then also the Italian fans, when the team started to score, like they would be chanting like whatever the Italians chant, and then
Italy. No.
Yeah, I don't think they actually.
No, I don't think Italia.
But yeah, it was great to hear, like, at various moments you'd hear the Italian fans getting into it, the Irish fans would be kind of silenced, and then the Irish fans would just come back into it. It was a great atmosphere. As
for somebody who hasn't watched a lot of Six Nations, it's actually one of the nice things that to see about it. Even on the game at the Principality Stadium, you could hear the English fans singing Sweet Low sometimes, and I was like, oh, that's blasphemous.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that was very
in
naughty.
Cardiff, yeah, for sure. No, but it was good because in previous years when I've watched the Six Nations, I kind of did the same as you. I would look at the fixtures list and go, Italy's on at 3:15. I'm not fucking watching that live. I'll get up and watch the next one, and then I will try to avoid any spoilers, but I'll watch that one straight after. But Italy's getting to the point where you can't do that anymore.
Which is great for the competition.
It's great for the comp, yeah, because it honestly used to be pretty much a waste of time to get up at that time to watch the game because you know they're going to get pumped. Is it 30? Is it 40?
Yeah.
It's just not worth it, but not anymore.
No.
Which is great.
Well, because imagine a world where they beat France and Ireland.
I know.
Yeah. Well, they were down by 14 points at the end of the game, weren't they?
Yeah, what was the final score? Yeah, 34-20.
And there was that moment where they had a huge overlap, but they had their big lock on the wing.
Yeah, Rutzer.
And he did this
Breck's kick to him. And it was like, oh.
And the kick was actually, if it was well executed,
because they got big in goals,
huge in goals, giant in goals. With it's all AstroTurf, so they would have got grazed up to the mother. But it was on that move, but they completely screwed the pooch. With
I think that was a key moment.
It probably could have gone through the hands
because Italy had a decent amount of momentum at that moment, and if they'd executed there,
wow,
who knows? So, I mean, it's great the fact that game comes down to those kind of margins where it was genuinely a few key plays either way that decided the game. But I mean,
because usually those games are gone in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, Ireland's got this weird thing now where they keep scoring a ton of first half points. Like they scored 4 tries in the first half, and 1 in the second, and that's like the first 2 games. I think there were 3 first half tries, bonus point try in the second half. So they've got this weird trend. Like it used to be last year where they would grind you down over 80 minutes and you wouldn't be able to live with them with their kind of relentless, quick recycle ball. But now they're just coming out of the blocks and then maybe easing up a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's hard to keep on going really when you've made such an incredible start. But they seem to be quite ruthless. You know, when they get half a chance, they generally what's the word I was trying to say? Convert those into points.
And like you said, they could have had a couple of extra tries if they'd managed to handle the ball a bit better. So it could have been more comfortable. And one of the tries they conceded was an intercept to that man Bruno, the winger. So he had a pretty fun game to watch. He's a bit of a pocket rocket.
And your boy Capuzzo, no, I can't.
Capuzzo.
Yeah. He was the guy. He actually stopped James Lowe from scoring the try.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
he's got a bit to him, doesn't he?
He's a good player.
Not just a beanpot. Well, no, he's just a little man out there, isn't he?
He's got more power in him than he visibly shows. Yeah, basically. So. No, man, it was.
I'm worried that we're peaking here. We very rarely are too loud. That's our question. See, look at. I'm going to bring that down a touch.
You can always bring it up in post.
Yeah, I can always bring
editing.
It up. But then if it's just peaking the whole time,
you can't do nothing with it.
Well, it's just a pain in the ass, really. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, as they say.
That's go.
Right. But somehow we still managed to make this into a podcast.
That's true.
So that counters that. But the game that I'm looking forward to for next week is definitely going to be
Italy against Wales.
Yeah, Battle of the Spoon. And who is actually the favourite? Who would you call the favourite? I know who I would call the favourite.
It's hard to say it, but based on the performance we've seen thus far and the fact that Italy's at home, I mean, it's in a fortnight, so Wales have got another week to get it right. But yeah, Italy seem like the form side of the two.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The Wales are just finding sad new lows constantly. And is that the game we're going to talk about next? Really.
Anything else on Italy? I mean, you didn't watch it.
Exactly. It's hard to comment.
Their number 8 had a great game, Lorenzo Canone. I don't know if they showed it in the highlights, but he had a couple of great runs where maybe he just needed to find that one support runner, but couldn't quite find it.
What do they need? I think I heard the term being used in the highlights that they're sick of being called valiant, valiant losers.
Yeah.
But they seem just half a breath off from being valiant losers to. Not just ultra competitive, but winners. At least 50-50 or some of the time. Like they still haven't got a win yet in the Six Nations.
We're talking them up, but yeah, they are winless.
Have they got a bonus point yet?
They got a bonus point against France.
Yeah, because they were close enough. Yeah. So that's more than
Wales have got.
So they
are 5th on the table instead of 6th. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that game's gonna have some. It's almost like a relegation game in the Premiership.
Kind of,
It's gonna have a bit of heat on it. I reckon.
Who else do we talk about?
But what do they need? What do they need as a team?
Oh, I think they still concede a few too soft tries. Like they can't be putting themselves in a position where they need to chase a game like that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, Hugo Keenan, I was about to talk him up. He scored another one of his kind of tries where he gets put into a gap. Like he did against, was it France, where he got into a gap and then he just backs himself to beat the defenders.
He's running backwards half the time.
Yeah. He's got this weird, elusive run. He looks kind of gangly and like he shouldn't be as fast or as powerful he is, but he is. So
is he the world's best number 15 right now?
At the moment, I think so.
Yeah, it's hard to put him above him.
He's just so safe at the back.
Well, there is Shooter McGavin out there.
Sean Stevenson. We'll get to Super Rugby a bit later. But
I'm so dying to talk about some Harbour players.
But I think if Italy, I mean, these players are often in their early 20s, so give them a bit more time. I think they'll get there.
Which is the total end of the coin for Wales, who all their team are looking for retirement villages. There's some old boys in that team. Yeah. Oh man, I felt for Ken Owens. He's a solid.
Was tough,
and he just looks like he's just dead behind the eyes a little bit, like he's seen some shit. And he's been carrying all this crap all week, and then I think he's a very good player.
Yeah. Sheriff is his nickname,
and he makes some solid hits out there, doesn't he? He puts his whole body on the line. You can see how much he means to him. He's a very proud Welshman. But this whole thing must be just taking years off his life.
Before we get to Wales and England, did you see Mac Hansen's post-match interview? He's the winger.
Yeah, I know. The Aussie.
Yeah, the Aussie guy. Did you see his post-match?
No, I didn't.
So he gets man of the match because he gets a couple of tries.
I saw some memes about him just looking kind of like, this is what I look like when my wife's telling me off or something like that.
Yeah, because he looked a bit frazzled because he's doing the post-match. There's a microphone kind of right in front of his face. He gesticulates. He bumps the microphone, which is obviously a little slightly embarrassing moment. But he doubles down by when he bumps the microphone, he goes, "Oh fuck!" Like sorry, right on camera. Then he realizes he's just said, "Oh fuck," and then he's like, "Oh sorry." Yeah, it's a great moment of live television.
That's great. I love those ones.
Yeah. I find the Northern Hemisphere punditry and commentary teams who do all the interviews and stuff are much more apologetic to any swearing picked up on the camera. You'll often hear them, sorry about the language you picked up. Like, down here, they just kind of gloss over it. If they pick up the microphones and on the field, and you hear them going, for fuck's sake, ref, or something, the commentary team never...
all over it.
They just glide straight on by, but the Northern Hemisphere... pundits and whatnot.
I'm terribly sorry about that.
Okay, you're offended by the language.
If there are small children or women in the room, I know us fellas can handle it.
Yeah. So, but that was great.
Yeah. I did it actually, speaking of commentary, there was some... I love that guy. Whoever did the commentary for, that call that I talked about before were like, never give him. I never give a vampire. It's never blood. And that's what he is. He's a vampire. That guy was commentating the Wales-England game. And he had some crackers. He described...
He's pretty left field.
Yeah, he described Wales' attack. It had the cutting edge of a rubber
chainsaw.
And
then I think he qualified it by saying it's rather blunt or something like that, just in case you didn't get it.
Yeah, and then he did that a few times, and he had a female colour commentator who said it's not funny when you explain.
Those two are often
he cracked up, and he was like, I can't stop it though.
Those two have got a bit of good banter because he's really lighthearted. I forget who he is, and she's really analytical, straight shooter. So they've got a bit of a...
That's a vibe that works.
It works. It does work. So, but that was the first game, and Wales and England played next.
Yes. Look, scoreline 2010. Yes.
Owen Farrell missed a few kicks at goal.
This is what I mean. I thought that was flattering to Wales.
Yeah.
He left, what did he leave, 13, 15 points out
there? He had a 33% kicking rate, so he missed a few penalties.
He left a lot of points out there.
Yeah.
And the one try that Welsh got
was an intercept.
It wasn't like it was really came
from... There was
no
point where they built some kind of... in the previous weeks, Wales would have one pass away, they just dropped it. They didn't even have that this week.
Well, they were just... I think they were just... It was almost like they were playing to minimise the damage. They were just putting up so many up and unders, and they would... The back three from the England squad were really just swallowing them up every time.
Back there.
I think it probably prevented the English from actually getting some front foot ball a lot of the time and actually getting into their face plates, but it was just like putting a plaster over a gaping wound. It wasn't they weren't trying to win the game. It felt like negative rugby. I know there's all sorts of different kind of opinions about, kicking and all that sort of stuff, but that particular kicking, it wasn't to win the game. I guess at any stage, if they managed to pull out another arsey try, they go it's 7. It's game on. So they were just hoping for an English mistake.
Yeah, but it wasn't really coming.
No, because it didn't look like they looked safe as houses.
That's right.
So you got to be like, okay, this isn't working. It's like a cricket player. Okay, we're going outside off. We're trying to play for the slips the whole time. This isn't working. We need to go to the short stuff and have a leg side field. So they didn't seem to be fluid enough to be able to adapt or have anything that looked remotely threatening. And that rubber chainsaw line was
pretty apt.
Was really apt. And look, I don't think that the Welsh, for any part, were lacking effort. I feel like they were putting their all out there, but they've just bereft of ideas and a team that looks basically sad and soulless in a way. And
I mean, with all the off the field stuff, it's tough.
I was really sorry, man. I'm just yabbering on here, but I was really hoping for a big bounce back. You know, that real, like, they were going to get that siege mentality,
back
like
to the corner kind of thing.
Like, we're playing for all those boys in the valleys and stuff who we need to get contracts, who maybe, you know, have to support their families. We're in a real tight spot, and that even the whole nation would have been like, this really sucks. Everyone probably needed.
It's England as well. So.
Yeah, it would have been great to get one up over them. So I was hoping. And maybe semi-expecting just a little bit of something else. But this Welsh side just never fails to disappoint at the moment, which is a real shit thing for a great rugby nation. A great rugby nation, but just not a great team and not a well-run rugby union.
Not at the moment, eh? I mean, they did play a bunch of youngsters. They had a young 10, a young 12, a young 13, so... It's kind of maybe not that surprising. But
Dyer wasn't in there, was he?
He was...
got cut, or?
Yeah, they dropped him for this game, which was weird because he was one of their better looking kind of performers. Yeah. So they had Halfpenny at the back. He kicked the penalty and the conversion.
Yeah, right.
Reece Emmett looked pretty sharp. Although he dropped at least one high ball as well, which was a little bit disappointing. Like maybe a bit uncharacteristic,
Yeah.
But... I mean, neither side looked that flash. You didn't look at either of those. Even England won, and they've only lost the one game. You didn't look at England in that game and go, these guys who've got the same record as Scotland, you didn't look at them and go, these guys are going to still potentially win. They're going to beat Ireland next week and then
I don't know,
win the Six Nations.
Are you being a little harsh on them, though? Like, have you ever seen an England team that with a kicker who missed that many kicks? Like, he left his kicking boots at home. So if they finish the game... and they've won, this is all hypothetical, even if he gets his intercept and they win the game 33-10 or something like that, that's pretty damn comfortable. Everyone would be going away, look, they were a step above, they never looked in trouble, they got the job done, they did it without any sort of heart palpitations. And then let's even take away one step further that RC intercept. 33-3. I know it's all
hiding.
It's a proper hiding. And then everyone's saying, "Well, watch out for England." But it's the same game of footy.
Maybe.
I think they look pretty good under Borthwick. I
think they're building. I think they're going to get there. I still think they're.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. If you look at the French, you look at the Irish, you
can see the progression.
You almost like that. Almost kind of looks like a bit of a finished product.
Yeah.
But England have got a lot of room to grow still.
For sure. England look like they're going the right place.
And those arsey bastards always are in the mix in the World Cup. They always
find a good side of the draw.
They got a great side of the draw.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like if you're an English fan, I think there's a lot to kind of get a little bit excited on. You've done a stinky for the last year and a half where you've just kind of but we'll see how it goes, but there's still a great chance you could go out in the semis or quarter semi-final. Australia, England. Oh, that's a great one. That's a tasty little tart.
Yeah. But no, I mean England, their Stewart looks great at the back, still continues to impress. Watson, first game on the wing for a couple of years because he's had notorious injury problems. He comes in, scores a good try. I mean the props look good. Genge and Sinclair looked really good.
Genge is
he's a unit, isn't he?
Sensational player.
Do you know his nickname?
I think Genge is just good enough.
They call him the baby rhino.
There are no rhinos. Are there hippos or no rhinos at the zoo? We talked about this on the live
stream. They have rhinos, and I saw a baby rhino, and they like trotting around and throwing their weight around.
He is a bit like a rhino.
Yeah. He just loves the contact, man. They use him to carry so much.
They dominated the scrum as well, didn't they?
Scrum was a little bit scrappy, but
and he was great around the park.
Oh, for sure, he's busy.
Yeah,
he loves it.
Yeah,
he went like 55 minutes just hell for leather, and then got
substituted. But that's what you want.
That's your role. That's your job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not playing a full 80, like empty the tank.
That's right.
There's a lot of. I guess first and foremost you got to be a good scrummager and all that sort of stuff, but all that other stuff is brilliant.
Yeah. No,
you can add that to your game. You get those extra wrinkles.
Yeah.
boy, oh boy, you can become. He's got some serious athleticism to him
sure,
as well, and some little sneaky skills in there too. Very, very nice little. He's got good handles.
Yeah,
yeah.
So does Sinclair, but I mean Sinclair, he's the one who got
Sinclair
the try.
got a try, yeah.
Yeah, he burrowed over from close range.
So I'm telling you, man, England. Fucking England, man.
Yeah.
I'm not thrilled about it.
Yeah, no, the pieces are certainly there. Yeah. So I'm not writing England off by any means, but I don't think they're going to win the Six Nations. I don't think they're.
I know. I'm not worried. Yeah, I'm not worried. The Six Nations is a big deal and it's a big competition, but I'm just very much thinking about it with the lens of the World Cup
for sure.
Because they always. 2007, they didn't look great. They made it to the final.
That's right.
That
was kind of a bad English team, but they had Wilkinson doing his thing. And,
they somehow asked their way to the World Cup final. Yeah. Like, teams make it to the World Cup final who play like crap sometimes.
That's true.
The French team that almost beat us in 2011 lost to Tonga.
That's right.
In the pool stages.
They almost won the World Cup.
As much as we talk about form and all that sort of stuff, and that 2007 All Black team was unbeatable for about 8 years, apart from knockout World Cup games.
Yeah, that's right.
World
Cup's a different beast.
It is a different beast, and the English somehow, apart from the 2015 one where they actually had it at home, where they absolutely pooped the bed.
That's true.
Where did they go in 2019? 2019. I can't believe they didn't win that. Like, after that demolition of us and the fact we had beaten South Africa, I shouldn't have, but I was just like, so this is
England probably going to win.
Yeah, England are going to take this. But they didn't. And,
Where to here for Gats? Does he swing the axe again? Because if there's one thing I've noticed from the Six Nations coaches thus far, most of the coaches are going for largely stable squads with a little bit of tinkering with injuries and a little bit of tinkering to build experience. Like Andy Farrell made a couple of changes for the Italian game, but not wholesale. Gats is the one who's changing like 9 players for a game. Because he's on the record saying, I need to keep these senior guys in the squad because we don't have that kind of mid-range guy yet. We've got a bunch of guys who are like 100 cap guys, and we've got a bunch of guys who are like no caps or 1 cap. Right. So I need to give these guys some experience, but I can't just leave the seniors on the bench. So he's kind of rotating.
I don't know, man. Like, he is in a tough spot. But I don't see what he can do. Like, he's just got to play with the cards that are dealt in front of him. I think his senior players, and there are some great players amongst them, most of them are beyond their best. He's still got Morgan is a great player. He's got some backs that are just a little bit green, but some of those guys have got a lot of promise, but just still a bit green behind the ears, and they need some sort of like crazy rugby lobotomy, like to be just realize the talent that you have and take away all the external crap, and let's just see what we can actually do as a rugby team and take away all that other shit. But that's not going to happen, and I still think they probably don't quite have the talent of the other squads, including Italy.
What does he do against Italy? Does he just try to keep it conservative like what the English did and just go for mauls? Because I mean, the Italians didn't concede any maul tries against the Irish, which is a pretty big pack. Like if anything, the Italian forwards, they stood up really well.
He's got 2 ways he could go with it. He could be like, well, I've got nothing to lose. I can throw it all out there. But he kind of does. Like, that wooden spoon. Like, being known as the worst team not in Europe, but in the Six Nations.
They asked him about it in the press conference. Like, how big is this game? And he was just like, well, nobody wants the wooden spoon.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's clearly a big game.
Yeah, it is a big game. When's that one? So it's
in a fortnight, yeah.
So we've got another week off now.
Fellow week again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What are we going to do on a week off? We've already used...
Super Rugby's back. The MLR's going.
We already used our Q&A gimmick. Yeah. What other gimmicks can we use?
We could do some World Cup stuff.
We could do teams beginning with A. Albania. Australia. We could go... I guess we could cover Australia. Other A teams that could be Algeria.
Does Afghanistan play rugby?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure these teams have national sides, but they could probably be beaten by the Rosmini and Westlake first 15s, Anyway.
Albany. You're a sure boy.
Albany. There is there is an Albany Senior College now. That's a relatively new school.
Nice.
So if any of you from Albany Senior College watching, welcome along. Speaking of which, Nick Evans, he's a Westlake boy.
He's coaching with the England lineup.
So Westlake is my
Your school?
No, it's not. I went to Rosmini.
Oh.
So the two massive rival teams on the North Shore, especially in my day, were Rosmini College and Westlake. So
Okay.
Rosmini College, would you like to know the All Blacks that came for Rosmini in my era?
Go on,
was in the year with Anthony Borich.
Oh, yes.
Rudy
He's
Wolf.
a big man. Oh, yeah.
Rudy Wolf. Yeah.
Rudy Wolf was deceptively powerful. He didn't look that big, but he had some beef about him.
And he was quick.
Yeah.
He was quick. It was weird in film form because no one quite looks like a man yet. No one is really quite.
But he had a man's body.
Yeah, he was just like boom. Everyone called him Flex. And he's the nicest, sweetest, kindest, loveliest human being
Until
I've
you
ever
get
met.
on the rugby field.
No, even when you're on the rugby field,
Okay.
he's just he's not gonna. He will hurt you if you go at him wrong, but he's just going to outclass you and just do a tiny little swivel of his hips, and you'll just be grasping air and going, and he'll go, "Oh, it's okay, bro.
Good try.
Next time." And it's somehow
non-condescending way. Okay.
Just but Westlake had Nicky Evans. Oh no, we also Rosmini College is the school of the number 10 for Wales. Scored the penalty kick against South Africa at the very end of the game to get the victory over there last year. Gareth Anscombe. Yes, he's a Rosmini boy now playing for Wales.
Nice.
But he went to represent Auckland. This is a real, very, very niche North Shore tangent we're going on, isn't it?
Even I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about. And I'm from the same city as the guy.
Okay, well, let's pull it back. Okay. Anything else about that game?
I think that's Ollie Lawrence still looks good for England in that midfield.
Yeah, I think it's much better than
the Marcus Smith and Farrell combo.
But do you think Marcus Smith is saying, "Hey, I'm not going to miss that many kicks"? What do they do with Marcus Smith? He's a prodigious talent. What are they going to do with him? Can you put him at 15?
Yeah, maybe. Well, not with Freddie Stewart there.
Yeah, no.
Problems.
Keenan,
good problem to have.
Who would you put in your side, Stewart or Keenan?
I'll go Keenan at the moment.
Yeah. Depending on the side you played,
Keenan, I don't think gets when you look at Freddie Stewart, if you have never seen a game of rugby in your life, and you were to look at Hugo Keenan and you were to look at Freddie Stewart as a physical specimen, you'd probably go with Stewart. So I think he looks the part more. Keenan's kind of gangly and has this weird running style where he doesn't look like he's doing that much, but he actually is
moving.
Yeah, he's moving.
Awkward.
Yeah, he's really awkward looking when he moves about, but he's effective.
But that's kind of what works for him.
That's all I care about.
And one of those guys that it's hard to tackle because
very hard to tackle.
His
good under the high ball. I think equally as good under the high ball. Maybe some would say no, but they're playing next, aren't they? So we'll find out.
I don't know what it is. Anytime anyone plays England, it's tasty.
It's just tasty. Yeah, everyone's got a bit of history with England.
When we play England, I'm like,
gotta beat the English.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta beat the old. I was about to say the old girl. Gotta it's kind of we're part of the Commonwealth. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a little historical beef with them. Is that it?
In the rugby playing world, I think so.
Is that it? Why is it? Why does everyone hate England? I'm trying to write a piece about this right now.
Their media sucks. Our media sucks as well, but their media sucks. Their rugby media.
They sort of dominate the rugby media landscape.
I think so. They're very loud. They had an axe to grind with Eddie all the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they used to question everything.
So it's a mixture of historical stuff, the fact the team probably gets more media attention than anybody else. And is it the people call them pompous and arrogant quite often?
I think
they're when they beat you, they're like, oh, of course we were going to.
Maybe. The fans, they reckon Twickenham's very expensive, and it's a different breed that.
I've never been to a game.
In England, no, me neither.
Yeah, I lived over there. I was 19, so.
You're not anymore.
I'm not 19 anymore. I'm 20 years older than that. Oi, oi, oi.
France, Scotland. That was this morning our time.
We haven't slept since then.
4 a.m.
Jeez.
Or 4:15.
I was up. I was watching it. I freaking live streamed with Hamish at halftime.
Oh, did you really?
I did.
Oh, nice.
Because he said, I jumped on his things, and then he was like, Tony, if you want to jump on at halftime, you can. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then I kind of started to wake up, and I was like, okay, I'll jump on. So then I just got on there and talked. I don't know why it gets me on, because I talk absolute nonsense. We don't even talk about the
game. He loves it. He just loves catching up.
Yeah, he's a good boy, old Hamish.
Now, you might have thought that game was going to be ruined if you're not a fan of teams getting early red cards, because there was a very early red card in this
100%.
game. And there was no mitigation for the Gilchrist shoulder to the head. Jalanche had to go off for an HIA, which he seemed to pass.
Mm-hmm.
But
it was a fair enough red card. But look, I've made no secret about the fact I am now a Scotland fanboy.
Yes.
You know, like I made a video about it.
How were you feeling when that red card was produced at 4:07 in the morning?
I was just like, this is an absolute horror show. Why have I woken up?
Right.
And
because France had already scored a try by that point, right?
Yeah, and I was... What Hamish was actually saying on his thing was he was going, well, if they stay at this rate, they'll actually overtake a number of teams because they'll get such a great points differential after they absolutely pump the crap out of the Scots. And I was thinking, oh no,
I don't want this to happen.
This is just an awful, you know. And it was almost 12-0, like with a red card, and it was like all hope is gone.
Enter Mohammed Hawass.
Exactly, it's always darkest before the dawn, you know, like...
Do you know what happened?
He's a burglar.
Do you know what happened with him the last time he played Scotland?
He red carded?
He got red carded for punching Jamie Ritchie in the face.
Isn't he a bit of a...
Seems like he's got a bit of a checkered past, but obviously he's turned his life around.
He spent some time in prison.
Still got a bit of a temper.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I think you could literally see the red mist descend on him as he was just like, is this a good idea? This is a good idea.
Turn himself into a freaking
human missile.
Torpedo and just boom.
Why?
Just stupidity. But the thing that worried me from the Georgian ref was when they were going through it, he said, I see some mitigation there because it doesn't look that bad.
It doesn't look that dangerous. They're always looking for the mitigation.
Yeah,
and then,
which I actually...
Yeah.
I don't mind that. But after the red card for the Scots, if that wasn't a red card, I would have been spitting tacks.
What was hilarious is one of the assistant referees, that one was the English referee, Carl Dixon. And I've watched enough of the Premiership to see that guy, like, he will literally see freaking murder, not literally, figuratively, and he'll just be like, nah, it's alright, it's only a penalty, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's not meant to be a ref. He saw that after the Georgian ref was like, it's not that bad, and he was like, come on, mate. I think that's maybe a bit dangerous. Which, I guess that's the process working. Right?
Yeah, it worked. Like, you have some checks and balances there. You know, someone's going to be like, or actually, you might, because it could have been very easily, I think it might be relatively easy as an AR to be like, whatever you say, mate.
You don't want to rock the boat, right?
Yeah. So I did it. I was appreciative of that, but just that moment where he said, "I do see mitigation," I was like, "Where is the mitigation? Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
But I calmed myself down.
At least, and as the ref, he had the ability to check himself as well.
And it was the best thing that happened for the game because then it was 14-on-14, fair fight again.
Space.
Yeah, and fair fight again.
Yeah,
you know, like it really kind of made some massive impact on the game. Hey, before we go on, in the last episode, there was a lot, like in the comments, lots of people talking about your watch.
Oh.
Why are they talking about your watch?
Because I don't usually wear a watch. I had it. There was no battery, and it went dead like a year ago, and I didn't. Maybe 2 years ago, I didn't put a battery in it, so I put a battery in it. I didn't put a battery in it. I took it to a.
Why were they talking about your watch?
I guess because I don't wear a watch.
Just a silly old.
This cost me, I think, 200 RMB in China, which is like a $40 watch.
Oh, that's pretty pricey.
Okay. I had a student in China who had a watch which was worth 100,000 RMB, so that's 20 grand. So my one's a little bit cheaper.
So like I think when I think of China, I think everything should be cheap as chips, but it's not these days.
China's got a lot of rich people who like to just blow money on everything. When you've got that much money, you just want to blow money on everything. So you buy 100,000 kwai watch. Kwai. Yuan, RMB, whatever you want to call it.
All right, again. Yeah. All right, well, that's the end of the Watch Chat segment. This was brought to you by...
Rossini, which is a fake... It's an Italian-sounding brand name for a cheap Chinese brand.
Yeah, you'd never hear the Chinese doing that sort of thing, would you?
No.
Nah, never.
Not at all.
Where were we?
France, they beat Scotland 30-21. It was 14-on-14 for the majority of the game. Early French lead, they scored 3 tries. Intermark, Dumortier and Ramos with the intercept.
Oh, that was a dagger.
That was brutal.
I was just going, we can do this! All of a sudden I'm Scottish. 12% motherfucker. And And I was like, okay, we're stringing some phases together. There were quite a few moments early on, even when we were down. I was like, they look quite sharp at the breakdown. They were getting quick ball, and I was thinking they can do something. And then they were really getting it happening. And the thing about Finn Russell, like, excellent. The things I admire and I hate about him in the same breath.
Yep.
I love the fact that he's willing to give it a crack.
He's gonna do some crazy shit.
He's gonna give it a try, and sometimes it's gonna come off, but sometimes it's not. But one of the things that if you were an intercept merchant, he's a great player to be up against because he looks as though he loves to come to the line, put a little bit of footwork on, and then throw the pass.
He does.
Very
That's
close
like
to the
his
line.
thing.
Very close to the line, which is tasty.
Yeah.
You know, and some of those passes, if the guy connects on it, he'd throw a gap very, very easily. But if you're switched onto it, you're...
It's a gamble as a defender with Finn Russell. If you commit, often he'll make you look stupid. But then if you can get it right,
you can screw him in the pooch. And he did a lot of great things in that game. It was 50-22 that he did. That was just absolutely spectacular. But the one thing I admire about him, like you'd see a lot of players who would do something stupid like that, and then like completely go into their shells,
right,
and then just play
he
real
just doubles
conservative.
down.
He just keeps on going for it.
He just doubles
There's
down.
an NRL player called Sean Maloney who used to do that.
Sean Maloney commentates the rugby as well.
Oh really? Was it James Maloney? It might be James Maloney.
Sean Maloney's the
one of the
commentator.
Maloney's, and he would the bigger the game, he'd always make a massive cock up at the beginning of the game, and then he'd and everyone would be like, oh, and he'd be like, no worries, it's very right, and then he'd freaking be an absolute stud for the last 20 minutes of the game, and everyone would be like, how does he do it? And you're like, well, he's just getting the points back that he already lost but he was a real fun player to watch. But he very much gives me those sort of vibes.
He's the opposite of the Irish 10 who played at the weekend, Ross Byrne.
Yeah.
Ross Byrne steps in for Sexton. I didn't really mention him when we talked about the game earlier. He never takes the ball to the line. Yeah, right. But he's just he's the general. He's at the back going, you fuck off, move over there. And then he's going to put people into gaps and he's going to kick. He's going to distribute and kick. That's pretty much... he's an old school, kind of like a Grant Fox. Grant Fox never ran the ball. He just kicked it, passed it.
And never got tries.
That's right. So Ross Byrne's kind of that. Ross Byrne gets a lot of stick because everyone's like, he doesn't do anything. Because he doesn't do that kind of crazy ass.
Yeah, but he does the stuff you can't see. And
he's just very reliable.
But that's why players like Dan Carter were incredible because he was such an amazing general.
Yeah.
But an incredible attacking threat and just
the whole package.
I'm getting a Kalen Doris. Yeah. Oh dear. Well.
But yeah, Scotland had a wee comeback.
Oh, they
Hugh
did.
Jones looked good.
Very, very good. But I still love them. I still so desperately love them. But the thing that was worrying me was they had to work so hard for their tries.
It was such a weird one compared to their first two games where Scotland is like, we don't need any ball. We're going to get down your end, and first chance we're going to score a fucking try.
Yeah.
Whereas this week it was like bang, bang, bang. French would defend.
Yeah, and the French looked like whenever they got into, I keep saying "ow" because I feel like I'm on the. That's my
You're not. 12%, not enough.
When they got into the 22, it was just like, oh, they're going to score. When they were in attacking position, they looked like they were going to be able to take them out wide, and someone would do something and cut them through, but. They managed to play such a hard and gritty game to stay in it and keep going. But they had to work bloody hard for their tries. And the one thing that I finding quite interesting with these new change of laws in terms of the dropouts from the goal line with the held up, for me, it's changed in a good way. I think it's a good thing. The value of the very close to the line pick and goes. The ones where they just hammer against the line, hammer against the line, hammer against the line. Those are quite likely to get held up. And if you get held up, you're losing a shit ton of, of territory, and you're losing all of that, obviously that territory,
pressure.
but that moment, that ability to score a try, it all just gets absolutely released. It's a massive pressure
It's a win
release.
for the defence, absolutely.
100%. And that happens quite often with a held up. Whereas it used to go to a 5-minute try, which, the pressure is short. I know, a 5-minute scrum, which is...
And often you were under more pressure.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that happens. But I think teams are still not quite clicked onto that. Because
We don't see enough teams pull the attacker over the line and deliberately hold them up.
Because I thought that a couple of times where they had them, and I was like, dude, you just need to fall backwards and have that.
You've
guy
got them
under
you, so why not?
Yeah, and then you've got and then that's going to be an interesting thing, but. But I hope it does eventually as people start to see that those pick and drives, obviously they're still going to be valuable.
Yeah.
There's still going to be massive opportunities. Obviously you're millimeters from the line at times. But it's going to make it more attractive to actually give it to your first five and see what the heck is happening in the back line.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Because it's almost riskier to pick and go, isn't it? Because it's always like keep it safe, keep it in the forwards. You don't want to lose possession. Yeah. I think what we are seeing is a little bit of teams who are receiving the goal line dropout. They're using that as a little bit of a set play. When that law was first introduced, one of the first adaptations we saw to it was teams receiving the dropout and then immediately trying to whack a drop goal straight over. I think it was like the Americans did it against either the Canadians or the Chileans.
Seems like a bit of a French move to me.
Yeah, and then a few teams cottoned on to that fact, so teams kind of stopped kicking it straight down the middle because you basically the guy's got all the time in the world to just kick. You know, if he's got a decent boot on him, a relatively straightforward drop goal.
You can imagine that in the high belt.
Yeah, exactly. But now we're seeing, like we saw the Ireland, which game was it, where they had that little set play from, I think it was the Keenan try, was it against France? Like they had a set play basically from the dropout return. So we're starting to see that kind of tactic evolve. So I don't think the teams are done with their innovations.
Yeah, that's nice. That's very tasty. Yeah, I don't know. That was just one thing I noticed. And I felt like, well done, Tony. That was an original thought. It's very, very rare I actually have those. But, like, in terms of Scotland, I did not... Like, everybody warned me and said, oh, they're going to break your heart. They're going to screw the pooch one day. And for that first 10 minutes, I thought, oh, Scotland!
Yeah.
Here you go. But boy, oh boy, I came away a bigger Scotland fan.
Right.
You know, like... There were a few moments in that game that still could have gone either way. I know, like, what was the end scoreline?
32-21.
So there was that last-minute try of the French, wasn't it?
That's the bonus point one from Fiku.
Which really was a bit of
by the way.
Yeah, he got man of the match, I think. Yeah. But they had that...
He was man of the match before he scored that try as well.
In the last couple of minutes, I think they were only down by 6 points or whatever, and they had
They had to go length of the field basically.
They had
they considered a penalty.
A scrum on their own 5 metre line. I was like, I still believe
they can do it.
I still believe.
Yeah, that's not a game where you would say Scotland shit the bed. That wasn't that one. That was just
it all the way. I think
the French were just a bit too good over the course of the 80, and on another day, Scotland could have won that game.
It's funny, isn't it? Like you look at the English and Wales game, that was a 10-point difference, and what was it, 11 or a 12? But the Scotland French game was just razor thin for the most of the time. You know, like whereas the
Wales never really looked like winning that game, did they?
Never.
Whereas Scotland, if they'd won that game, it wouldn't have been a shock.
No, it would have been bloody great. It would have been great.
But France still get the bonus point. They bounce back after their first loss in a long time.
That's probably the team that we ignore most a lot of the time. I don't know, is France. Your thoughts on where they are? Are they peaking too soon?
Yeah, it's interesting because they've looked...
did they peak too soon? Are they...
Yeah, they've looked kind of vulnerable. I think we talked about it at the start, how at the end of last year they were having a lot of results, which they were wins. They were keeping this magnificent run going, but they weren't blowing teams off the park. But they were still finding a way to win. Then they had that loss to... Well, they had the first close game against Italy. Then they had the loss to Ireland. You're thinking, oh, shit, maybe these guys are a step down. But I still think they're there or thereabouts, aren't they, for the World Cup?
Yeah, they are.
They've still got some freak players, man.
I think they're still almost favourites in the bookies' eyes. And whenever they go up against anyone, I still think the two best teams in the world are Ireland and France
at the moment,
now. Yeah.
Red cards, eh?
Red cards. So, some great rugby.
So in a fortnight, it's Italy-Wales for the Battle of the Spoon.
I want to watch that game.
Then you've got England against... Oh, it's England against France. Why do I think it was England against Ireland? That's the final game. England against Ireland is the final...
Oh, so it's England-France.
England-France, and then Scotland-Ireland. Ooh, Scotland-Ireland's going to be tasty. That's you're going to have mixed feelings about that one.
I love the Scots, but I'm, the green blood. So I've got to... Pull for the homeland there, but like it's I don't know, it's a weird one, but because that's almost they're all pretty crucial games actually. Those two games other than the Spooner. I
think there's things to like about all of those games. They're all
So all four teams, apart from obviously Italy and Wales.
Yeah, England, France, Scotland, Ireland are all still in it for sure.
All still in it.
Yeah.
Ireland's the only team that's got a chance.
Unbeaten for a Grand Slam, yeah.
Grand Slam on it.
So Scotland would love to throw a spanner, and that works.
Yeah.
Everyone else is going to be rooting for Scotland, that's for sure.
100%. Wow, it's all on like Donkey Kong, isn't it?
It is. Six Nations, he's a fan.
Yeah, I am.
You're sold.
I am sold.
Honestly, this is the best one that I've watched, because this is the first year where I know Italy got a win last year in a match which didn't really matter, but I mean it still mattered for them because it broke a huge losing run for them. But every game Italy's played this Six Nations, they've looked decent enough.
The only game that didn't look that great was against the English.
Yeah, they got outmauled. They won the second half.
Yeah. Right.
So even that had like a bit of a bright spark, but
yeah. That was probably the worst game in the whole series so far, apart from the one I missed.
If you like mauls.
Yeah, that's it. Mall fans out there, give it up for your mall fans.
Well, that was the Six Nations.
That's the Six Nations.
Now, in another part of the world, there was some other rugby. The MLR was still going.
Would you shove it up your ass? Nobody cares. Has anybody ever commented on one of your videos going, can I please have an MLR update? Is anybody?
MLR, Major League Rugby, folks.
Major League Rugby.
I watched one game at the weekend.
What other teams do you cover that aren't qualifying for the World Cup?
I watched these guys, ATL, Atlanta. They travelled to
Georgia.
Seattle to play the Seawolves. And I noticed...
Seattle or West Coast team. We were talking about this
before.
Yeah.
There we go. They've only got a 4,500 seater in Seattle.
Where do you get the fucking hats from?
I had it printed from AliExpress.
He prints his hat. He does. He's told me this before.
They always sell out the ground.
Does the guy go... This guy needs a life. He keeps getting me to print these absurd. No, he just
takes my money.
Yeah, he's quite happy.
I don't even know if it's a guy. They always sell it out. 4,500. They are, I swear, louder at that ground in Seattle than like any of the super crowds. Maybe apart from the Waratahs at the weekend.
Really?
Yeah, they were really just getting into the game.
And
have you ever watched the NHL? How when they score a goal, if it's the home team, they play the goal horn.
Yeah.
They do that. I didn't notice. I don't know if it's a new thing for this year or if they did it last year. I didn't notice. But anytime they kick a penalty or get a try or conversion, they play a goal horn.
Really?
It's great.
In the NRL, anytime anybody gets a try, they play the sound from the sort of the mascot of that team.
Okay.
So if it's the Cowboys, there's a yeehaw.
Okay.
And if it's the Warriors, there's a Pacific.
Okay.
And
I know the Brumbies play the horse neighing a lot in Super Rugby. Yeah.
Well, when the Broncos scores, they get
a horse neighing.
Yeah,
that's where they ripped it off from.
Yeah.
Brumbies, get original idea, would you?
Would you?
But yeah, Super Rugby is actually where we'll go with this.
Yeah, Super Rugby, and boy oh boy, it's really nice to watch rugby that's in my time zone. It's so much easier.
Sitting down at 7 p.m.
So nice. Or 4:30. I watched the bloody favourite game of the weekend in terms of entertainment value. Well, like, maybe not the stakes, but certainly entertainment value was the Moana Pacifica versus the Fijian Drua. And if you can, go look at the highlights. It was 35-37 at the end of the game, was it? Something like that? 35-34?
34-36.
34-36. And like last minute try to the Drua to pinch it, but just beautiful Pacifica rugby.
Yeah.
Really, really. And like New Zealand rugby's, Super Rugby's a bit different, man.
Yeah.
It's open, it's free, it's like...
I was kind of torn on this weekend of Super Rugby because there were honestly some bloody good results and like some great rugby. For an opening round of rugby, I thought the quality of the games was genuinely pretty bloody good.
Very high.
But then the crowd attendances were shite.
Yeah.
Apart from the Waratahs, they had a decent attendance for their game. They had a good atmosphere.
How was it in Townsville for the Reds and the Canes?
Not great. Not great.
Yeah.
So it's a contrast to go from the Six Nations where you, I mean, obviously international's a different beast, but when you've got these massive crowds, like you said, swing lows, battling the Welsh chants and the Italians and the Irish fans going at it, and then you're looking at these Super Rugby crowds going, that's a bit sad.
Yeah.
Where's everybody? It's summer, everyone's at the beach. I don't know.
Between cyclones.
Yeah.
You know, it's it kind of caught us off guard. I don't think everyone was really ready for the Super Rugby, but in terms of the players, bloody looked ready. Apart from if you're a Highlander or if you're a Crusader, because it was a great weekend.
The mainland didn't look that good.
It was a great weekend to be a North Islander.
Yeah. For those of you who didn't know, the Blues went down to Dunedin and won 60 points to 20. If you want to see Mark Talia in action, that guy was beautiful.
maybe the world's next superstar. If you went purely off that game,
he's phenomenal.
He's incredible.
And then if you watch
Good Harbour, what province does he play for?
The Chiefs played
Harbour.
the Crusaders down in Christchurch, and they beat them 31-10. And Sean Stevenson, what province does he play for?
Harbour. Didn't he look good?
He looks so
Didn't
good.
he look so good?
He looks so
good. Damn. Oh, I'm getting Kayla
the
Doris.
Crusaders. The Crusaders look flat. You're getting a Sean Stevenson.
Yeah.
Shooting your load.
Exactly. I'm blowing my load everywhere here. But no, he's so good. He for those of you who don't really know who he is, he played for the Māori last year and played some bloody good games
rugby,
against the Irish.
Yeah.
Was one of the standout players. The Irish won that first game, didn't they? No, the
Māori won the first game. And he looked amazing.
And he looked incredible. He looked like one of the... And he
Yeah.
was playing against some very quality Ireland players. And for whatever reason, he just wasn't quite in the frame for the All Blacks, which I think he's forcing himself into it now. Well, early doors in terms of this season. It's a bloody hard year to get in the frame. But if you're
still room for a bolter.
And back three, that's the kind of bolter space, really.
Exactly.
So it'll be interesting to see. But I was thinking about it. Who does he actually replace? And I was thinking Perifetta is probably the guy he replaces.
And then he looked good against.
And Perifetta looked great. His touches were classy.
Yeah.
Very, very classy. We just need some bloody forwards.
Yep. Elsewhere, well, that's the New Zealand results. Oh, the Hurricanes.
No, wait. Can we before we go on? A player that we liked, not we'd like to, but gets a lot of shit, and I've piled on from time to time.
Yeah.
Sam Cane.
Oh yeah.
If you did get a yellow card.
Got a yellow card, and everyone went, that's your All Black captain.
But he looked great.
Yeah.
He looked very, very quality. So watch out for Kano this year.
Sam Cane.
Here he comes.
Coming for William Webb Ellis.
But yes, and Crusaders, is this a sign of things to come, or are they going to come right?
I think they'll come right.
And they always
History tells us they'll come right.
Exactly. The best indicator for the future is the past.
Exactly right. That's why it's always easy to beat the bookies.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Hurricanes. They were tied up with the Reds at halftime, I think 13-all.
And then just dicked them in the second.
Yeah, exactly. They blew them away. Scored some nice tries, good hands.
Yeah.
Almore came off the bench and looked bloody good in that game.
He's powerful, man.
He's a big unit. If he can just stay fit. He's got issues with concussion, that guy. And then there were some Aussie games.
The Brumbies.
The Brumbies won away in Sydney.
Over the Tars.
Which I think was the best game in terms of attendance. That game generally seemed to have a great atmosphere.
That stadium just got opened last year. It's the home of, I think it's the home of Parramatta.
Okay.
The Eels.
It looked great.
Yeah, it did.
It looked great. Certainly the most visually appealing stadium and crowd of the weekend. Until we get to Fiji in a couple of weeks, which I think is going to...
If you're an outside fan, I don't know, you're probably not going to wake up for it. Fiji has the same time zone as New Zealand.
Do they?
Yeah.
I thought they were 1 hour different. It's much of a muchness.
They're bloody close. I think there's...
They usually play their games at 4:35 our time, which is going to be stupid o'clock for you guys in South Africa.
But
and
it's
the
like
UK.
it's something special, like watching a game in the islands, because the islands. Like I've been there a couple of times. They fucking love rugby. They're obsessed with it. There are rugby fields everywhere. There are kids kicking about rugby balls all over the place. They do incredibly well on a world stage, but they have a tiny population. I don't know what it is, but there it is. Okay, it's a very, very...
Fiji's over 1 million.
Still, it's not many for how
well they're represented. Yeah, how many Fijians play abroad?
How many incredible... How well their sevens teams does.
Phenomenal athletes,
And so, because they're obsessed.
Made for rugby,
It's a religion. I think we talked about it in the first podcast. The way they actually play and develop their skills is one touch. We play touch, but they play where you get touched and you got to hand it over.
Right.
So we play in New Zealand like a bastardized version of league, essentially, where you get 6 touches and then hand over. It's one touch. So if you get touched, you have to fling it. You have to fly, and that's why they got these insane sort of...
Because they've been doing it since they were 4 years old.
And that's just how they play the game.
Yeah.
And they absolutely are obsessed with it. And when you go over there, they just want to talk to you about rugby.
Right.
Because they love it. And every little park you go in, there's just some kids just kicking a ball around and a piece of dust or whatever they're doing. They're loving it. So and when an actual game goes there, when the 2 games we saw last year, it's the biggest thing to happen that year, basically.
Right.
The stadium gets packed out with people who are obsessed with rugby, who are absolutely starved for top level rugby, and who are so passionate about their teams that is just this feverish, incredible atmosphere that the team actually plays off.
Yeah.
And they've all been special, haven't they?
That's
They've been
right.
special encounters. So if you can watch the Crusaders versus the Drua, I'm billing it as a cracker. An absolute cracker. Did I sell it? Could I,
You sold it.
Could I be a promoter?
Not that good. But
I need them to do a face-off or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Yeah,
But I think we can say, without a shadow of a doubt, the best games to watch in terms of crowd attendance are going to be the games in Fiji.
Yeah.
No doubt.
6 games. That's quite a lot.
Hopefully they maintain the level for 6 games.
They're like, oh, not another one. Jeez.
I reckon they will.
It's in North Harbour Stadium on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Cold and wet.
The Force were the only team to win at home. They beat the Rebels 34-27. So our trip to Perth for a Super Rugby final is still on at the moment.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, yes. We did.
We committed to that.
On the live stream. So we did a live stream.
Of the Blues game.
Of the Blues game.
Talking a lot of bollocks, to be honest.
A lot of shit.
We got distracted.
Yeah, terribly. And I had nothing to do with it. And we somehow...
My dad watched part of it.
Oh, no.
I know, because he said, you talked to Hamish on the Kiwi lads.
Did he watch that part?
Seems like it, yeah. And he said...
he said, so proud.
He said, that Tony... Oh, that Tony. He's... what did he say? He didn't use the word weird, but he used something like, he's a bit different or something like that.
I'll take that. Oh, yeah.
Cheers, Gather.
Thanks, Gather. I appreciate it. We were waiting for his halftime chat.
I think I missed it. He sent me a full-time one and we missed it because we were too busy doing Kiwi lads. Yeah.
Sorry, Gather. We should get him on one day.
should.
We've never had a guest. I was thinking about, where would we put a guest?
Yeah, exactly.
We're a one-camera operation now.
Yeah.
And
But that's
what, do we just get them to take the place of the 2CG and they just
it.
plant right in the middle of us?
Yeah, but those were the games. So
That was the rugby. And it happened.
it happened.
And-
Six Nations was phenomenal. Super Rugby, I think the quality of the rugby was very tasty.
And what the hell are we going to do next? We can just talk about Super Rugby.
Super
next
Rugby next week, but MLR. Watch one game of MLR. Watch one game.
Is he still? Is it? No, he's not. I played. No, I watched one of the.
Okay, you watch San Diego play. I don't know who they're playing. You
If
can
they
tell
play
me.
the hand jackets, they're going to be really torn.
Free Jacks.
All right. Yeah, feel free to jack it anywhere you like. Well, if you've got an idea in terms of what we could focus on next week, we usually want a week off. That's when podcasts kind of bring in gimmicks, and that's why we did a Q&A, and then I was like,
Formula One starts next week as well.
there's Cyril Garn versus John Jones on the weekend.
Oh, that's being Sky keep playing me ads to buy their pay-per-view.
I'm gonna buy it. It's working on me. That's going to be a massive fight. Wow. And Shevchenko is fighting on that card. So two titles on the line that night. But who's Shevchenko fighting? That could be that's a woman, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, how about that?
Okay.
Yeah. So we could talk UFC.
That'll be interesting.
I was about to say you could ask us questions, we could answer them, and I was like, no, we've done that.
Right.
You got any ideas? I guess we just focus on some rugby.
Probably some rugby. There'll be some Super Rugby.
There'll be some Super Rugby, and we can talk about whatever controversies happened in Wales too.
True.
Yeah.
See what Warren Gatland's up to.
Yeah. Hopefully something good.
Did I ever say I'm taller than Brent Gatland?
Yes, you have.
Multiple times.
I think you're twice as high.
Not quite.
Yeah. You have mentioned that.
He's got me in every other department in terms of skills.
I've seen both of your penises, and he's outstretching you big time.
Big time.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a beast.
He's like a tripod. Yeah. 2CG for the biggest penis.
Where is Brent Gatland at the moment?
Probably knocking around somewhere in the North Shore.
Okay.
Perhaps. Oh no, actually, sorry. Is he playing Super Rugby at the
I
moment?
didn't see him yet. This is how much Super Rugby's been in the media. I got no idea what's going on.
Well, can we part?
I know Will Jordan's injured.
Can we part the kimono for a second?
Okay.
So one of the things we talk about is like what videos are doing, how they're doing well, and all that sort of thing. Super Rugby is a massive. You've always been a big deal in this part of the world. But I've never done a huge amount. I've done one Super Rugby video, and it was talking about Carlos Spencer's try in 2004, which wasn't exactly current. But you do that content quite often, and your Six Nations content and your URC content is doing really, really well. Whereas you had a certain expectation on your Super Rugby content.
It's following last year's pattern where it was just a bit flat. Well, it's weird though, because I looked at the Super Rugby highlights, and they get hundreds of thousands of views. So I feel like there's a lot of people who follow Super Rugby enough to watch the highlights.
Yeah.
But they are no more checked in than that.
I think most of those people would almost be Kiwis. Like, I think but you reckon it's really...
I feel like there's a lot of casual watching a Super Rugby going on.
Yeah. I think people who watch your videos aren't casuals. I think they're pretty into it. They like your shit.
I think there's a lot of people who've maybe used to follow Super Rugby, maybe South African fans who've maybe
that's the
checked
thing.
out a little bit.
That's the big feeling of the vacuum is like we've got Pacifica and Drua who are great. I'm so happy to have them.
And the rugby is fun to watch.
Yeah, it's really fun to watch. I think the standards looking pretty tasty.
Yeah.
But it's really there does feel like there's a big hole in our hearts where South Africa used to be.
Yeah.
Where the sides used to be. But
we miss you, South Africa.
We want you back. We want you back for good.
There was a
I
documentary.
was trying to get you to get in there.
There was a Rassie Erasmus, not a tweet. It was a video on the South African Rugby YouTube channel. A wee behind the scenes jobby about how those guys are prepping the players for this year.
That's it.
That's time to wrap it up. If the crickets are going.
The crickets are like, you guys wrap it up. What was the general nature of this one?
It was kind of weird. They were talking about like, hey, we used to get a break during Super Rugby when our players play Super Rugby. We used to get an off season. Now we're in the Northern Hemisphere. We don't get an off season. So they were like, we need to give our players a rest now during the Six Nations because the URC teams, like the Irish and the Scottish, they're without their Six Nations players anyway. So if we rest our players now, then they're getting a break. And the URC teams aren't disadvantaged because the non-South African internationals are playing the non-Scottish internationals. So it's kind of parity.
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
They laboured that point quite a lot, actually. But anyway.
Sounds thrilling. It really does. But
it was still good content.
But it's
I just love watching Russie talk, and Russie's a fascinating individual.
It's almost putting, for an outside observer of the URC in South Africa, we used to be like, okay, this is what the Stormers are doing. The Sharks have got so-and-so, they're playing well. Like, the Lions have got yada, 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 they're playing well. And you'd be like, oh, yeah, I know these players when they play.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
now when they play, you're like,
who's that guy?
Shit, he's good. They're a little bit, and to us, a little bit more foreign now. You know?
One of the themes that came out of it was Russie seems quite happy with the guys who play in Japan because the Japanese clubs give their players a lot of leeway in terms of coming back to play for the Springboks, and the French clubs, but not the Premiership.
All right.
Yeah, they didn't really talk about the standard.
Was he trying to? It sounds like he's. It
was almost like a bit of a sales pitch.
Has he got an axe to grind? That's what I
don't know. He was basically one of his points was basically don't go to play in the Premiership in England because we are going to have very limited access to you, and unless you're fucking amazing, we're not going to pick you. We're going to pick someone who's in South Africa. He didn't say it that directly, but that was the gist.
Seriously?
Yeah. He said they've got a good relationship with some of the French clubs. They've got a good relationship with the Japanese clubs, but the Premiership clubs not so much.
Really? Because they're like, stick it up your ass, we're just going to do what...
This is our player. He's our player, so when he's contracted, we're paying him, so we're going to play him.
Which you can kind of understand.
As a business, for sure.
100%. Yeah. It is a business. But you know what's not a business? This, because we don't make a lot of money doing this podcast. Maybe one day it will be worth billions. That's unlikely. But why don't... I feel like maybe we should start... We started this podcast by giving a plug to Rian Lu. So maybe we should finish by giving him a plug. So
is it Lu or is it Low? I think it's Low.
Tell us in the comments, Rian.
I'm pretty sure it's Low.
Go subscribe to his channel. Let's get him to 1 million subs, everybody.
Can you get me to 1 million first? Before Rian, then Rian.
I'm at 5,000, so thank you. So I cracked 5,000. We said on the live stream, but my channel, my little old channel,
cracked 5,000.
Started in, I think it was May last year. I think I did my first little video.
Okay, so this is more than 6 months.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, it's more than 6 months.
You're closing in on a year.
Closing in on a year, and I took about 3 months off.
You did.
Yeah,
which is not bad.
Yeah, it was done alright. But thank you to anybody who's watching in my weird shit as well. And if you're watching this right now, we thank you too. Or if you're listening to this. Oh!
Get the phone.
We did it again!
We talked too long. We could have wrapped this up.
We knew it as well. Thank you all so much for watching.
We've once again faffed on too long.
We have. For those of you hardcore fans, you would have seen an episode like this finished before. So here you are again. But thank you so much for watching. You may be listening to this and you may not be wondering what the heck we're talking about with this particular technical difficulty. Where can they listen? Spotify,
Google Podcasts,
iHeartRadio,
Stitcher,
wherever else you get your podcast. But we do appreciate you listening. Thank you very much, Mark.
Good to see you,
Great
sir.
podcast. That was a handshake if you couldn't see. Not his penis.
Off camera.
Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.